Welcome to another episode of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. I am Kelly, and my co-host, as always, is James. Mr. James, what's happening?
Things are good. Coming to you from the corner studio of That's Some Crazy Shit Broadcasting, Utah location.
Ah, look at us. We're up and coming.
Practicing.
The corner studio at that.
Corner
I like
studio.
that.
Oh, I got a view of the mountains. It's beautiful.
Oh, well, that's good. Keep that energy and that vibration and that, what do they call that? Vision. Keep that vision so that we can get there one day. Speaking of visions, we have a wonderful guest today, James. Our show attracts the most interesting people.
We have been. We really have been.
And today, as always, is no different. So today we are speaking with Debbie Anderson. And Debbie is a vibrational energy healer. That's one of the things she does. She does readings. She does spiritual readings. She does oracle readings. And she heals with energy and vibrations. She has spiritual clarity and intuitive readings. And, her website, which is vibrational-energy.com, is really cool. She offers a lot of services. And she is somebody who has been in the magical realm pretty much all her life, she says.
I know it's a trip how some of these people discover their power so young, and they have to deal with it when you're young, much less the stuff you have to deal with when you're a kid anyway,
Yeah, so she offers a lot of stuff, and I get the impression that she's really into helping people. So I am excited to speak with her. She's one of those woo-woos that we attract.
We do, huh?
She is. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Welcome to our show. Welcome to the podcast, Spiritual Energy Healer, Debbie Anderson. Debbie, thank you. Welcome to That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. I'm so excited that you're here today. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on your show. I love the work you do. I have to say that. I really do. I love it.
That's good. We appreciate that.
We really do. We have fun, I think, with what we do. And I don't know about James. I can't speak for him, but I've learned a whole lot of crazy shit since we started doing this podcast.
Yeah.
I have as well, on different podcasts and different things, experiences. I always say to people, I'm still a seeker of information and knowledge, and I'm not an expert on anything, although it states I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in that. I feel that every day I wake up, I have 24 hours in which to learn something. And some of it I want to take forward with me, and some of it I go, that was an experience. I don't want to do that again. So I think we all go through that. And I think that's the beauty of, every 24 hours we have a clean slate to start again.
Very
I like
cool.
that. Yeah. And I feel, that since we've been doing this, I've learned not only a lot from our guests about what they do, but about myself.
Yeah. And children actually have this amazing concept, which I wish we as adults hadn't forgotten, because we used to have it, but we have forgotten how to do it because we get into this, I have to do this stuff, I have to get there, I have to be there, I have to act this way, I have to look like this and all the rest of it. Whereas kids, and especially up to the age of around about 8 or 9, they're so spiritually connected back to what I call the source, that they're just there. They don't have any concept that there should be a difference. They shouldn't like somebody. They shouldn't do this. They shouldn't do that. They just do it. And sometimes it's a way we have to learn, I think, ourselves, that maybe we need to step back and watch, especially younger children, in a playground. And I don't know, I'm hopeful that in areas where you are, the regimes are lifted and children can go and play and hug each other and share and get dirty and have all those kind of experiences. And when you see them playing, yeah, they can be a little bit sometimes, that sort of shuffling of who's in charge, but then it's almost like it's worked out in moments and there's nothing held against each other. It's almost like that is a nanosecond that's forgotten, and they move forward and they really just play and be. And I think this is a great learning for us as adults. Sometimes we need to go back and go, you know what, sometimes we get wound up about things or upset about something, and it's like, is it really going to matter? Anyway, that's my sort of philosophy on it.
I made the comment before, the two groups that we don't listen to are the young and the elderly, and they seem to be the ones that are the most in touch.
Yes,
the
definitely.
Unknown.
Yeah, and I do love sitting with older people. Like, I'm old myself now, but I mean, I got some years ago when we were at a July parade to actually meet some of the people that had fought in the Second World War. And, they came and they had always have cake afterwards and tea and things like that, which is the best part of it. No, I shouldn't say that. And this gentleman was sitting on his own. And of course, he had all his medals and things on. And I said to him, "You've traveled a very long journey." He said, "Yes." He said, "I'm very blessed with my life of what I've had." And we sat and we talked for a few moments. And afterwards, his son came up and he said, "Oh, thank you so much." His grandson came up and said, "Thank you so much for talking to my grandfather. A lot of people don't like to talk to him." And I said, "Well, I know some people that have been in horrendous experiences don't want to talk about it, but I just wanted to talk about his life, his family, and all the things that he had achieved, and he enjoyed that." So, and I felt very honored to be able to spend that moment with him, because when I left, I felt very honored to have met him, and the fact that this gentleman had fought for freedom for me at that time. And, sometimes we forget these things. And, when he went through all the things, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could actually deal with that. But as he said, he actually snuck in under the wire. He lied about his age to get in to fight for his country, and he was a Brit actually, and he was living in Canada, so he had gone in and sort of lied about his age to get in. So I think when we, as you say, when we speak to older people, we get to have the knowledge of their experiences and how easy we actually do have it today. We complain about this, we complain about that. And, I can remember my grandmother doing her washing with a mangle, one of those mangle things that she would wind and wind and wind, like she had muscles in her arms. She was a strong lady. She was only about 5'1", but she was an amazing lady because she would have this mangle and she would, carry coal in to stoke the boiler, which was in the kitchen that heated the water. So, I think I sit in gratitude when I get these experiences. And with young children, I just can't help but see the smile rise to my face because you just get to enjoy them. I posted on my Facebook page a little TikTok thing that somebody had put with these two little boy and a little girl, and they'd come together and then they kissed each other and then they sort of ran back and they were giggling and then came together and kissed again and then ran back, and that just lifted my soul. And I think sometimes we need that. So, I always say to people, go and find, like, whether it's the kittens playing together or the puppies or the children or whatever, or just the goofy things. Like, if it raises our vibration and we feel that joy entering our hearts, then it's good for our soul, regardless of what your belief system is.
So very true. And that's like a perfect segue to get into, like, what it is that you do, Debbie. I mean, you have this vibrational, I've been on your website, your vibrational healing, right? And
yes.
you offer all of these wonderful services, and I really want our listeners to know, what you do. So, tell me how all of that started. How did all of these things that you do, and then tell us, of course, what you do, because I don't want to say everything.
Yeah,
but, you know, share with us, you know, how you came to be this vibrational energy healer type person.
It's quite funny because I say to people, if I have to go back to a point in my life, it would probably be when I was around about 4 years of age. And at that time, my parents were separating and divorcing. And this is back, I was born in 57. So this was about early 1960s. So people didn't really divorce in those days. And there was a lot of drama and things like that. So my twin brothers, who are 3 years younger than me, and I went to live with my grandparents. Now, just to be aware, that was in Britain. And in those days, children were seen and not heard, okay? You had to come, you had to be quiet. Now, you know, of course, it was disrupting my grandparents' home, and especially my grandfather, who was a very stoic gentleman, that it was like, I go out to work, I go and have my beer at the pub on the way home, I come home, have my dinner, and I want to sit down and watch TV. So don't disturb me, kind of thing. So, and that wasn't being mean, that was just his life. And that was, you know, he, you know, like all of us, we get set in our ways. So to have a young child come there of 4 years of age that's running around and making noise, and little toddlers, you know, just starting to walk and touching things and things like that. It was a big transition for my grandparents and also for us. And my brothers were in one room and I was in another bedroom with my mom. So, and of course, in those days as well, children did not have the light on at night. There was no night light or anything like that. That was the British way, you know. Suck it up and get on with it. So the room would be in total darkness. There was not street lights outside where my grandparents lived. So once the light went off in the bedroom, it was in complete darkness. And this particular night, I did assume it was my mum coming to bed and that she had switched on the light in the bedroom because the room lit up. And I sort of sat up in bed, and then I saw these little ethereal beings, and I can only call them ethereal beings if there were little light, shafts of light coming down and sitting on the end of my grandmother's bed. And of course, in those days, they had the bedboards and the headboards. So they're just sitting on there and they're just glowing. And of course, me not knowing what the heck they were, I scream out, and, you know, and my mum comes running up the stairs like, what's the matter? Oh, you must be having a bad dream. So my first experience with my encounters with spirit were not one of, oh, this is so joyful and loving and all the rest of it. It was from their perspective. So they did this a couple of other times, and then they realized that obviously they were scaring the bejeebus out of me. So what they did then was actually, they would come through, and when I would play with my dolls and my teddy and have tea parties and things like that, the little girls did in those days. And that's why I understand and accept that young children do have spirit beings, the imaginary friend, we call them, that come to visit them. So of course, as time went on, and, you know, I would say precocious things. You know, we've all had that child that just says something and you're like, how the heck did you know, kind of thing. And I didn't even realize at that time, you know, oh, it must be spirit or all this kind of thing. It wasn't until I started doing readings for people. Somebody had obviously given me a tarot deck, which I have no idea how I got it. I wish I could remember, because it was such an amazing thing. I don't know, maybe I picked it up in a jumble sale, but I keep on having this memory that I had a tarot deck and I just played with it and would do readings for friends. But of course, you know, in those days, playing when you were sort of 11, 12 years of age with that kind of thing, as long as you weren't seen, it was okay. And of course, the transition for me, I think, was when I was on the bus coming home from school. I was up on the top of the double-decker bus, happened to look down, and I saw Jesus. Okay, I'm not going to apologize for it. I saw Jesus. That was what I saw as a child. And yes, he was wearing the flowy white robes, and yes, he had the beard, the atypical of what I would see in church on Sundays. And of course, I leapt up and I'm like, look, there's Jesus, there's Jesus. And of course, you can imagine, well, anybody doing that on a bus these days, we would go, okay, crazy person, step back, you know, kind of thing. So I can understand it. Well, it got back to my mother. And the next thing I knew, I was being marched off to see a psychiatrist. And sadly, in those days in the UK, if you had psychotic interruptions or something like that, you would be locked up in a mental institution with a lovely little white jacket wrapped around you just like this. So thankfully, Spirit jumped in and basically said, look, kid, you're going to have to take it on the chin. So you made it all up. And I didn't understand that. Because I'm like, well, I go to church. I see Jesus every Sunday. Like, what's wrong here? You know, why can't I say this? So again, it was this little bit of confusion, but I did say to my mother, I'd made it all up. She put it down to I was attention seeking. I got into a crap load of trouble. You know, you have the crazy show. Well, I got into a lot of with it. And after that, I sort of stepped back again going, I don't understand why I'm not allowed to talk about these things. And again, we're talking mid 60s, late 60s, where in the UK, this kind of stuff was not discussed. You didn't have internet or anything like that. I couldn't just go and tap a few keys and find out why this was happening. And again, I continued to play with the tarot. I was doing readings for people. And then I got the opportunity to learn to use the tarot properly, a course. When I was in I think it was my mid-20s. And at that time, I went there. And of course, I'd learned the way I'd learned, which was bringing the information down from spirit, the source, as I call it. And I thought that was how it worked, you know. And then I was told, no, you have to do it this way and that way. And I'm like, okay, I'll have to relearn something, but I'm open to do that. I'm eager to please kind of thing. But what I found out was people were saying to me when we got to the point when we were doing readings for each other, that what I was getting was correct, much to the disappointment of the tutor that was teaching. But then I got to meet 2 or 3 other people in that class, in that course, that were also the same as me, if that's the correct way of putting it, that they were doing it intuitively. And we got together afterwards and said, look, okay, there's something here. We were obviously brought together. And that's why I say about synchronicity of when we go somewhere, it may not be for that reason, i.e. I thought it was to learn to read the tarot properly, to get a certificate, to hang on my wall and say I could do it kind of thing. But it wasn't. It was to meet these other people. And then each other step of the journey continued. So I think for me, the transitional point of me realizing, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not this weird woman that, you know, my husband at that time was thinking I was having an affair. I was with spirit. Okay. I would spend time with them because I felt in tune. And I was lucky enough to go to the Arthur Findlay College of Metaphysics. And at that time, all they actually taught was healing and mediumship. And I got to sit and listen to and learn from different amazing mediums that were there. And to meet all these people that had gathered for this course, this training, and it was that realization, okay, because I was hearing similar stories from them of what they had gone through. So it's like, okay, so I'm not the only one. I'm not unique. I'm not this kind of thing. So when I introduce myself to people nowadays, I say, I see dead people, because I do. I see, I sense, I feel the essence of that person that has passed into spirit. And sometimes it can be guides and helpers and all that kind of thing. And the one thing I want to share with your viewers, whether they believe in this or not, is we all do have a guardian angel that watches over us through our lives. That's those synchronistic times that we get that little thought in our head or that bug in our ear, as it were, that, you know, I haven't seen so-and-so in a while. And then all of a sudden we bump into them, or we get a phone call from them or an email. It's like, wow, I was just thinking about you. It was them just reminding you and then connecting you and reconnecting you. So that's why I say to people, when you get this thought, this concept, this idea, or somebody's name pops into your head, pick up the phone and speak to them. It doesn't mean, you know, some people go, oh, well, is it apocalyptic? Is it bad? And I'm going, no, sometimes it's just they're thinking about you, or maybe they just need to hear your voice, or maybe you're just going to uplift them in some way. So always follow that, because this is, synchronicity happens whether you're on a spiritual path or not. It's there. So this is where our guardian angels come in to assist us. Or sometimes we, like many years ago, I was heading to work when I was working in corporate world, because I did for many years. The synchronicity that happens, like I was saying, I was on my way to work in corporate world, and all of a sudden I couldn't find my keys for my car. Now at that time I lived in a very small 2-bedroom apartment, like you could spin a cat round in it and hit the walls kind of thing, that kind of tiny. So I'm like, I always come in, I always put them in the bowl at the top, and I'm like, well, maybe I put them in my bag. So my friend, he was going through everything, he's looking everywhere, and I said, you didn't just happen to pick them up by any chance? No, because we had one set of car keys, one set of car keys. And we couldn't find them anyway. We ripped the place apart, okay? And I mean, ripped the place apart. I literally had drawers open, even though I'm going, there's no way I would have put the car keys in the drawer. You know, you go into that total panic. And I'm looking at my watch, I'm like, I'm gonna be late for work. Eventually, I go back, I go into my purse, and there they are. And of course, I'm saying to my friend, you put them there, didn't you? You just found them in your pocket? And he's like, no, I didn't. I truly didn't. So I was out of the door, hurling down the street, got in the car, and I hit traffic. I'm like, oh, come on, the gods, please, let me get there. I want to get to work on time. And then the radio came on, and they were talking about a really bad train crash that had happened where this was in the UK, where the signals had not gone down and a car had gone through. Now, I cannot say for sure that would have been my vehicle, but the time it happened would have been round about the time I would have been there. I sat there, I cried, I prayed, I thanked all of those that had synchronistically held me back, if you like, had changed that path, that pattern for me, because obviously it was not my time. So when these crazy little things happen like this now, I just go, okay, I can't find my car keys for a reason, or, I can't, find my wallet for a reason, rather than getting caught up in the anxious and, for the anxiety of it, and then getting ourselves all into this whirlwind. There's always a reason, unless of course we've been sloppy and not put our wallet back where we should have done. But usually in those times, it's because there's a reason. Just as we sometimes take a left turn instead of a right turn, and we go, oh my God, I turned left. I usually turn right, it's a quicker route, and then all of a sudden we hear that maybe there's a traffic jam there. Or when we've turned left, we're like, okay, I didn't know that building was there, or that coffee shop. I'm going to go in and get a coffee. Then maybe we see something on the wall, or maybe we meet somebody in there, or we hear something on the radio. So this is where synchronicity really works, when we're what I call tapped into that awareness around us. And then we can just go, okay, I'm meant to be here. Because I've heard people say, well, I got this sense I should be on this course. I'm like, yeah, I've heard that before. And I get there and it really didn't resonate with me. And I'm like, okay, stop. Who did you meet? What else was said? What did you see? What did you say? There's a reason. And I actually had this happen to me. A friend of mine some years ago said, there's a Pilates workshop. I think it'd be really great. You can go there and, they want to know about your work. Well, I had no idea what Pilates was. Note to self, always check what you're getting into before you actually do it. So I went along, and there were 2 other ladies, and they were like me. They had no idea what they got themselves in for. But we had such a laugh, and I got to make some really good connections there. So again, we sometimes forget that. So for me, I feel with my work, it's not just doing readings for people. It's this whole learning, teaching, sharing, and all that sort of bundled together with so many different things. I've created oracle and affirmation decks, and they're available as well. And I love working with those. I've got different courses that I've created that I'm trying to get everything onto line. I'm still very much old school where I like to do it in person. So I do Zooms and that kind of training, but I really do have to put it into modules and do it in a way that's different. Like, we're all learning. This is a time of new learning for many of us. So, you know, and I just love that every day brings me 24 hours of a new opportunity to meet amazing people like you guys and be on the show and to share again. So I love it.
So Debbie, I'm really curious about your gift and your ability to, as you say, see dead people. Is it something that is it something that you can control? Is it always on? Do you just see them like all the time? And a lot of people have said when they see dead people, they are like flesh and blood like us. And some people say no, they're transparent, or I've heard different things. So what is that like for you? Well,
for me, so my training that I learned was you can be switched on, but not fully in connection. Okay, so I might be talking to somebody and then I'll pick up a message. So it's then down to the discretion of me whether I feel that I can ask that person, can I pass on a message to them? But I see, sense, feel. So when somebody comes through, I may hear a voice. I may get an image, a pictogram, as I call it, a little movie running in my head. I may sense, especially if somebody's passed with a heart attack, or, you know, recently I was doing a reading for somebody and I said, you know, this lady, I've got this lump down my left side of my neck, and I physically was having difficulty in swallowing. So it can be in different ways. So when spirit comes through, you know, I always say to people, you've got to be consciously aware of your own well-being. You have to switch off and look after yourself, just as we have to in any trade, as I call it, to do that. Because if we don't and we get sick, then it's not helping us, it's not helping anybody else. So it's really important that when I teach people how to do this, I'm like, this is not a weekend course, okay? This is not something you can assume that you can label yourself a medium or a clairvoyant after, you know, 48 hours of learning something. But I give people those techniques in which to protect and ground themselves. And that's a very important thing that I do share with people. You know, we have good and bad on our planet Earth, and there can be malevolent and benevolent ghosts, spirits. So we need to be aware of what we're invoking into ourselves. And a lot of it is discernment and ensuring that we're connected with our guides, our helpers. I have a team. I'm very, very blessed. And they protect me. They'll alert me if something's not right, if I'm supposed to know about it. Now, if I'm supposed to experience it, they'll let me go trudging straight into that mire and I experience it, because that's something I need to learn. That's part of my lessons or experiences that I am having in life, like we all do. You know, there's sometimes we can go back in our life and we go, oh, if only I'd known that then. But now we do know it, we approach it in a different way, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you for that. Very cool.
And Debbie, I want to go back real quickly. You talked about having two decks, the Oracle and...
Yeah, I have...
What are the difference between them?
Okay, so an Oracle deck. So when I talk about Oracle and Tarot, so Tarot is about suits and honors. It is a very structured way of when the cards are in there. Now, an Oracle deck is just, it can be anything from 30 cards. Ooh, it's an infinite, there's no set number, whereas a tarot deck is a set number of cards that are in it. So an Oracle deck are standalone cards. They're easier to read. And some of my cards can be, yes, a little bit in your face kind of thing. So they're not all, rainbows and unicorns, as somebody said to me recently. But they are pictorial. So I'll show you a couple here so that I can. So here's one. This is the medicine wheel. So each of the cards, when they're pulled, this is an open book. There's a book that comes with them. People can read them. I do a course where I teach how to play with the oracle cards, but the oracle cards can give us answers for ourselves. So we can shuffle the deck and ask a question.
Nice.
Okay? And that way we don't have to go to somebody like me or a psychic or something like that. Usually we go to the psychic or the clairvoyant to have that confirmation. Okay. Most people, when they go to a clairvoyant or psychic, have already know what they should do, but it's like, can I please have the rubber stamp? Can I just have the seal of approval? The confirmation. Yeah. And it's something, we go for a haircut and we come out and we say to somebody, what do you think of my haircut? Hopefully right. It looks really good. We're looking for that confirmation, that decision that it's okay. So the difference with an affirmation deck is they're just a card that you can use to affirm to yourself. And mine are all based on the I am principle. At the moment, I say mine are at the moment based on the I am principle, because we've stepped away so much from knowing that this is our journey and what we need to do, and get caught up sometimes in what everybody else expects of us. So the card, like I showed you today, of what I pulled to do with synchronicity, it helps us to be focused on something at that time. So it's not quite asking a question. I always, when I play with the affirmation deck, is say, what's my intention for today? In other words, and that was because I was coming on your show and I wanted to know, and he said, I am sacred where I should be because my soul is vibrationally there. And that was, to me, a further confirmation that this is going to be a great time that we're going to spend together. And it has been.
It's very fitting, yeah. I like that.
It's been
and they're
fantastic.
Beautifully illustrated, the two cards you showed.
Yeah, I was very blessed. I have 3 different artists. This is Heather Brewster, the amazing stuff she did there. And the 2 affirmation decks I have were Aaron Pine. He did some amazing work there. And the children's deck was Kim Dreyer. And here's the thing, I never met any of these artists. I was guided to find them. The synchronicity again. I said to Spirit, this is where we set our intention. I said to Spirit, I want to find an artist that can work with this deck. And that's happened every time. And I've gone back afterwards. I always say I've got a Google guide. Because sometimes it'll just come up and it'll be the first person there. Whereas if I go back and type in the same words that I typed in again, I can't even find that person. They may be 30 pages down. So again, the synchronicity of how that all comes into play is just beautiful and perfect. And if we believe and understand that we're exactly where we need to be at any given time, we stop fighting it.
Very cool.
We need to be there fully, attentively, and whether we like it or not, sometimes we're in a place of like, I don't want to be doing this, I don't want to. I always say, the sooner you get it over and done with, the sooner you can go out and play. Okay, because that's the way I look at it. Like, I don't like housework, but the sooner I get it done, the sooner I can go out and play. And sometimes when we're going through something really crazy in our world, in our life, we don't want to be there. We want to fast forward out of it. But the sooner we move through it, and then that allows us to move on. But be intentionally there. Don't try and avoid it, because sometimes it'll come back, and I always say, bite you in the bottom.
Debbie, thank you so much. We are running out of time. I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really enjoyed having you here.
I've absolutely enjoyed the time with you. Thank you so much for inviting me on board. I love it. Thank you.
Wow. I get kind of speechless after our guest. It takes me a second to kind of recover, because you're just so amazed by everything they say, and you're trying to take it all in.
Yeah, she's had an interesting life, and she is just, her energy, period, is just really upbeat and positive. I really like talking to her. I would love to have her come back, because we only scratched the tiny little surface of all the things that she offers, and so definitely have to have her come back again.
Yeah, like you said, we didn't even touch the tip of the iceberg, and she does have a good energy about her.
Yeah, she has a fantastic energy. And so if you are interested in looking up Debbie for a healing or a reading, her website is vibrational-energy.com. So next week, James, we're back with another guest. You can always look at any of our social media accounts. The easiest way to hit us up is to go to our website, which is www.thatsomecrazyshitpodcast.com. James has started his blog.
I was just gonna say that. That's funny. Yeah, I did. I just started it, guys. It will be evolving. I'm learning, but this is gonna be cool.
He needs a name. So if you have a name for his blog, you should reach out to him at james@thatsomecrazyshitpodcast.com. That's his email address, and give him some ideas because he's trying to think of a good name for his blog. And I told him, you can name it whatever you want. Consistency is the key, my friend. You got to be consistent.
Yep, I'm excited about it. And, right now I'm looking at once a month, people. So be on the lookout.
That's cool. So again, you can check out James's blog at www.thatsomecrazyshitpodcast.com. You can see all of our social media links. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. And I am working on our our YouTube channel. Although we are on YouTube, there's just no video. Otherwise, James, you can go check out his blog. Next week, we're back with yet another guest. It has always been fun. It's always fun. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, I enjoy our get-togethers and our talks and our guests. This is cool. I know I don't want to. I'm trying to be real even keel, but I'm excited, Cal. We're doing good.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Well, we always have another show next week that we can gush about our excitement. So until next time.
Keep your minds open, people.